Hello and welcome back to part 3 of the SWORKz S12-3D build. This is going to be the rear end of the buggy. I'm assuming we're going to be putting this on finally. If you were with us last week, you saw that we completed the front end and got the servo mounted. Now we're going to be moving on to the rear. As always, don't forget to caffeinate and hydrate, and then we'll get into this one. So in this week's build, we're going to continue on with bag E, and we're going to move on to the rear hub. And we'll be going on to step number 17. And we're going to be doing left and right times 2, just like all of the categories things are. We're doing the same thing on both sides. And we're going to be getting the whole rear hub and axle assembly done. So make sure you have your paper towel ready, because we're getting into the grease. All right, so now we've got our kit here. We can go ahead and slide it aside, because we're going to be moving on to the rear hubs. Now you will notice that you do still have your S12-2 rear hubs with the square blocks. You're not going to be using the square blocks. You're going to be using the ones that have this oval shape and don't have the flat side tier, but have the little step out, just like what the X-Ray has. These are more like the old school design, and we're not going to be using these. So you can set these aside, along with the square pills for those. For these, you're going to need the oblong pills, which are somewhere. Here they are. They're in the bag with the rear arms. You're going to need your rear arms anyway, so go ahead and get your rear arms out and set those to the side. These are in multiple different sizes. Does it say what they are on them? It does not. It's just really low, kind of low, and mid. Really low, kind of low, and mid. It looks like they're wanting us to use the kind of low and one step up from top. So that's going to be the number 3 on the part sheet. So you're going to snap off 2 of those, have those ready. And then go ahead and snap off the rest of them and then put them in a bag to the side, because you will need those for adjustment later on. Maybe the kit setup's going to work perfect. Maybe not. We'll find out. So I've got my thing over here of those. So we're just gonna put all this stuff that's adjustment stuff in the plastic bin, just in case I need this. Like I said, you're going to have these where it is the hole on the top, and it will only go in one side. So you look for the side that's going to go in, and you're going to put one on each side. It looks like we're doing the slightly down from top on both sides. And I just set those over here. Oh no! All right, so we got our slightly down from top and our slightly down from top. Not sure how you're supposed to get these out, since these are a 2-part, and most companies use a 1 piece that goes all the way through that you can just push out. These might be a little tricky. You're going to have to use a driver down in the middle of it. It's okay though. We've got them in. You can probably even angle those. I'm not sure what angling would do, but you can. Please note, when you're using different insert hub options, the rear drive axle also changes in distance. Good thing to note. Don't forget that. We need 4 3x12 screws, which are going to be these guys. Oh yeah, we already cut these open. Yeah, that's right. So the last 4 of those we need. 2 for each side. Remember, everything we're doing here, we're doing as a mirror image. We're going to need 2x6s. We've already got those in our hexes, so we're going to go ahead and get our hexes over here. And we're going to need any more button head screws than that. No. So we're going to need these guys as well. So these red pieces here are your ball stud mounts for the rear hub. If you've not built a kit like this, it makes link adjustments quite nice, actually, because you can just move them in and out. I'm going to go ahead and open these, because I know that on the next page we're going to need our C and D blocks, I'm assuming. And that's where our square pills are going to come in at. Then we need our bearings, 5x12x4s. Remember I said the front ones are 5x10s, the rears are probably 5x12s. And then 10x15x4s. So very standard on bearing size. The only one I've ever seen that uses a 6x12 is, I think, AE did on the 5 series cars, or the 6 series cars, maybe both. Not sure. I just remember them being odd. Then we need our pins, 2mm gunmetal washers. We need 2 of them. Did I just say washers? Washers. And then we need our bag of CVD building goodies. So we got 2 pins for each side. You may be wondering why you need 2 pins for each side, because one of them is going to be for your CVD build, which is your axle, and the other one is going to be for your actual hub, because that little pivot disc goes inside of this, and this goes inside of there. Sorry, it goes inside of this, which goes inside of that, which then the pin goes through that and hold it all together. Catch all that? Cool. We'll show you in a minute. And then be able to pick up what I'm throwing down. That might be it for right now, besides our grease. Grease time. I gotta get the grease back out, because I did go to the track the other day and brought my grease with me. I'm gonna use my red grease because it's a little bit higher temp than the black. All right, so for this, you're going to need paper towel for sure, because you're gonna be getting your hands a little dirty. So you need one to put stuff on, and I usually use these select the size things just just so I'm not using up a bunch of randomness that I don't need to. First things first, let's build our axles. So you're gonna need that. You need this, 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 okay? Let's go ahead and put our bearings in here. So a big bearing on the inside, a little bearing on the outside. You may be thinking, why am I doing that? Because as soon as this is built, you have to put this in here because that bearing holds that pin in place. And that's how that keeps in there from not moving. Then we can build everything else to boot. So that's fine. So first things first, what I usually do is I usually take my grease and get a little bit of it right inside of that little hole in the axle. And then I use this that goes through there. And sometimes these are threaded on the inside for a set screw to hold the pin. On 8 scales they are anyway. I was not sure that they do that on 10 scales, so I just thought I'd look and see. I've never seen one that is, but you know, SWORKz does do things. So. Alright, so there's that. And you're just going to take it and you're just going to smear it around, okay? You're just going to make sure that it's good. You're going to give it some spinny spins, jam it down in the crease. And this stuff looks like transmission fluid, so whatever you touch is going to look like you're bleeding on it. So just remember that. And then that flat spot on the end of the axle, I'll show you on the dry one so it's easier to see. There's a flat spot right there on the end. You want to get that grease right on the flat spot. So just put a nice dollop. Pretend it's Daisy sour cream and put a nice dollop on there. Then you're going to jam this over top. You should be able to see through the slot. I don't know if you can see that there. You should be able to see through that slot. Not that one. This one. There we go. Through that slot, down through it. Not the hole through the side, but the actual top part there. Down through that. And then you'll put this over it until you can see through these holes, through that hole all the way through it, and that's when you put your pin in. Do like the other stuff and hold your mouth just right again, and you're going to get it on there, and you're going to want to hold it real still, and then drop your pin right down the middle, and then push lightly. Now, see how easy that went in? Now make sure it doesn't fall through, because see that bearing holds that on. But you're going to hold that, just give it a little twisty twist. And the reason you're going to do this, the reason you're going to give it a twist and some whips and everything else, is you want to make sure that that grease is seated in there nicely. It should be nice and smooth. It shouldn't feel any grittiness. If you're feeling grittiness, it needs more grease. You didn't put enough on there the first time. If you got a little bit of grease coming out on your fingers, that's probably what you want. It's better to be over-greased on an axle than under-greased. All right, then we're just going to push this through. And see that dry pin's trying to come out. And now our pin is held in by the bearing. So now you're going to push on this end with your palm while holding this with your fingers. And then put your pin behind the hex through this side of the axle. And you're going to put your hex down on there. And then you're going to get that little bitty wrench wherever you threw it. And you're going to just give her a little snuggy snug. And then give it the pull test and see if it falls out. You need to give it more snug than what you snugged. Your snuggie isn't snugged enough. Okay. Then you cross your fingers that nothing snaps. And then give it a pull test. If it doesn't pull off, you're good. Now, we got that part done. So now we're going to go over and do the same thing on this one so we can put our grease away and start on the next piece. Ring pin, or your, I'm not sure what this is actually called. You want the big pin that the little pin goes through. The, I guess it'd be kind of like a universal sleeve joint. Then you go ahead and put your little dab of grease in there. And then as you put this in, give it a little twisty twist so that it seats that stuff around. I actually didn't like how that one's seated, so I'm going to push it back through. It didn't keep enough grease on it. I can still see the black mat. Nothing was shiny. All right, there we go. And give it a nice glob on the end. I said the little dollop of daisy. If you do it right, it actually looks like a little dollop. And hold it with your palm and gently hold the end with your fingers and make sure it doesn't move. Just like the last one. Drop your pin through. Now maybe you did this first before you put your bearings in your hub. Like I just did with this one. See, the bearing is still sitting here. And then you can still do your spinny spin. Just make sure that when you set this down, the pin is horizontal and not vertical, because it can still fall out. So you can grab this, you can put your bearings in. See? Still a piece of cake. And then give it the push through. And while holding it, just like the other one, you're going to put your hex pin through. Put your hex on. And tighten down that set screw. So I gave it the pull test and it just pulled out. Always give it a little pull test before you actually drop your stuff down, and then the next thing you know, it is way too loose. Alright, so that's all good. Now we've got both of those done, so then we can suck this back in just a little bit so we don't waste any grease. The easiest way I've ever found to do these is to push the screw through on both of them. These are a little funky to try to do, right? And then put your washer on. And then while holding one of them, grab your 2 mil. Whoops. This is when you need 3 hands. And is this one this facing, you can face this in or out, so it wants it facing out. Just give it a little twist to get it started. You're starting in aluminum, so make sure that it's straight. Now, normally I would put a little bit of thread locker on there. Might be okay since these go all the way through. We'll see. I didn't thread lock the ones on the X-Ray because it has a similar setup and they were fine. So we're going to cross our fingers it's going to be fine on here as well. And you're just doing the same thing for both sides because both sides are identical. If you're wondering why I'm holding this down here, when I'm starting aluminum where it's kind of like cockeyed like that, I don't want to put any torque, so I don't want to ever grab down here and go like that. I always just use light finger touch and just roll it down here, because if it rolls into aluminum down here super easy, you know that you're not cross-threading. If it has any friction to it, stop and make sure it's not cross-threading. All right, and then yes, the bump does face up, not down, so you can't even put it on the other way because it'll catch the top of the hub. So now our rear axle drives are done, so we can flip our page and move on to step 18. Step 18 is grabbing our arms. And then we need the hinge pins that have the like hex head on, or not hex head, flared head on them. If you guys have ever wondered like, oh my gosh, why is he cutting on that desk? This desk was super cheap on Amazon. I literally got it for this reason. All right, and then we need 3 mils, right? Yep, 3 mil lock nuts, those 2. We do need a couple spacers. I think it wants the thick ones on this one. Yep, so we're gonna use our thick guys here, not the thin ones. So we use the thin one for the front, and we got the thick ones for here. I think we're gonna have a lot of those extra after this. And then 3x8, yep, we'll need our pills for the next step, and we'll need 4 3x8 countersunks. That's these guys. 4 3x8 countersunks, and the pills, and our C and D blocks. Those are all going to be on the next step. So I just got those ready because this is going to go pretty quick. This particular section is. And then these hinge pins here for the other side. Now we're going to grab left and right. Are these the same on both sides? They are. So these are universal arms, so they can do a left or right, doesn't matter. going to be coming from the back on these, right? Yep. So from the back. Okay, so we're running long wheelbase in the front and short in the rear. So these are going to go towards the rear, which means we put this in first. And kind of like we did on the front, so you get the spacer on there. You're going to drop this guy in and push it through. The only difference is this time you're going to put a nut on the other side. Okay? So push through, put that on, drop this in, push it through, put your nut on. Just like that. Quick and painless. This is a 2mm. Then you need your nut driver. You're just going to tighten it down pretty much until it stops because these leave clearance room. And then we're going to go ahead and move these to the side for just a second while we get to the rear of the car here. I'm just making all kinds of noise. We are going to need our C and D blocks. D block is the one that says SWORKz, because that's the one that's going to hang off the back of the car and say it's SWORKz. Okay. C block is this one right here, and the U shape goes up, and then the screws go down. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and put this in first. And so it looks like we're leaving, it's not going to go here, it's going to go in the front holes. I am going to thread lock these. Now sometimes I go overboard on thread lock on these, and you don't want to do that either. You want just enough to help hold it. And it's going to go, like I said, in the front of the holes. Lots of adjustment on this. I didn't realize that you could, I don't know if you can move the whole transmission forward and backward, or if it's just, I'm trying to say is, I don't know if there's a different transmission for this. That's what I was trying to say. Right, so now is when I'm going to want my stand. Does it say what? Oh, yes. It doesn't say what pills to insert here, but I think that the setup, it does come with a pre-included setup sheet here. So rear pills, down and in one on the C block with the 1.0s. So it's going to be the 1.0 with the corner dot. Do these not even have a center one? Oh, they do. Okay. So down and in. So we're going to do down and in on the C block. And the D block is down and center. So what I'm saying here is this. On here, it has your C and D block, and you can see where you're supposed to be there. And they recommend down and in on the front and down and center on the rear. I just put the wrong one. I just put a D block one in the C block. I was like, wait a second, that's centered. Good thing is you just push them from the front, they pull right out. So here's my down and in. Down and in. Down and in. And then down and center. And down and center. So there's those. So we're going to go back to the page that we were on. We're going to need more of those thick offsets. Where did those go? So those hinge pin size? Yeah, so there's our thick offsets. So we need 2 of those. Go ahead and put your hinge pins in. Okay. And then these are going on the back. So we'll put our arms on first. So arm and arm. And then our spacer. See? Oh, it's not in all the way. There it goes. And then make sure your SWORKz is facing down. And make sure you're down and down. All right. There's that. Now we can get our rear screws on, which just like the front ones, we're going to do just a light dot, a real light dot of thread lock, because there's going to be pressure on this anyway, so it's going to have a hard time for it backing out, and you don't want to over thread lock it, or it's too easy to strip these. And then don't over tighten them since you're putting thread lock on. As you can tell, one thing I'm not doing is not putting an ugga dugga on them. You do not want to put a nugget on these, or they will never come out. All right, and there is our rear arms in and in place. Look at that. Go on to step 20. All right, and we need 3 3x3 set screws, 2 3x4s. So I've got my 2 3x4s. For the 3x3s, we're going to have to go robbing the last bag we were in. I think we've got 3x3 set screws in here. Uh-oh, did I pull them out of some? Oh, that's right, I used 2 for the other. Well, the good thing is, because I used 2 for up here to get that to not move around, we're okay, because I have a whole bunch of 3x3s. If this is your first kit, I will say, one thing that I always recommend purchasing a bunch of is 3x3 and 3x4 set screws. The very first thing I did when I got back into this hobby after taking my break to go to school, or go back to school, I should say, I grabbed a 10-pack of 3x3s and a 10-pack of 3x4s, because you always want to make sure you have enough of those. All right, and then we have our sway link. I was right with thinking that this was for the rear sway. It's got the single center one. There's our sway ends. And we need our ball stud mount, which we already completed. That goofy looking piece here, this guy here. Our 2mm washers, which I think we used up all the 2mm from this one, but there's still the 2mm in here. What else do we need? We need 2 more 7mm ball studs. 2 more 7mm. Oh, we already got those on there. That's right. That's for this right here. So these might just be extras. And we need 2 3x8s button heads. So that's our last 2 3x8 button heads. And then we need 2 3x10s, which I'm just going to go ahead and pull all these out because this is the last of our 3x10 button. The last of our button heads at all is 2 3x10s. So I just remember that those are 3x10s. Now we're going to slide this over because we're going to pull our rear end over here. I had a feeling these were going to be in the way. All right, take your wing mount off. I just had a feeling, because there's a lot of cars you have to take the wing mount off to get to certain screws. It's if you're going to be zip-zipping and not using a ball end, and ball ends just strip stuff too easy, so I just try not to. We're going to need this guy. Let's go ahead and complete our sway link. This rounded piece is going to go into the center of the sway link. These are a bear to get on, because you got to make it past this corner. Ooh, this one went on super easy. Well, would you look at that? So this is your 3x3, it says. If this one moves around, it's not the end of the world. This actually has a divot that it sets in. Unlike the front ones where we had to dual them up. Okay. And then we got set screws and these doodads. Make sure you're grabbing your 3x3s and not your 3x4s. Speaking of which, I just put a 3x4 in that. Oh, it's supposed to be a 3x3. Like I said, if we need to double up, I got a whole bunch of 3x3s in here. So if we need to double up on the end piece to the ball end to make sure it doesn't move around, we'd be all right. And we're going to find that out right now. Because here's our set screw. There's our ball end. Can we get it to pinch? Or is it just going to spin? Ooh, she pinched. The front one was just so small. It just would not grab it. Alright, so now that's ready to go. So now that is basically just going to drop right in here. It's going to set in that divot right there. See there? This is when you can loosen this up a little bit. And make sure that that's centered. And then tighten it back down. Because you want that to be in the center right there, okay? We are going to put our ball stud mount down on here. Oh, the ball stud mount could have went first. All right, and that one's probably the longer ones, the 3x10s, I'm assuming. Yes, 3x10s. 3x10s in the outer holes. Yep, there it is. Oh! All right, and don't tighten it until you get the other one started because it's a wiggle wobbler. It moves around on you. Okay. Then you can tighten them. See? Looks like that. Now this is still loose and can fall out. And that's what this piece is for. This piece goes on here with your 3x8s. Hand screwdriver, because this is going into aluminum. It's not necessarily a pertinent piece, so you don't need to thread lock it. It's not going to be under a ton of force and vibration like a CND block is, where it's on the control arms. I mean, these, it's going to get some wiggle down here from the sway link, but not up here. Oh, this was for the 2mm too. They're already right there. I may have to go up to a 4, I'm not sure, but now I know that we actually don't need these, and these are actually, in fact, extras, just like I originally thought they were. Just got bit in the leg. What is a mosquito? Oh, man. It's January. Why is tree pollen super high right now? And I mean, it's just... Let's just say that a fella doesn't mind if he goes back north. That doesn't need to be that tight. What you doing there, fella? Why'd you going so tight for? Let's back it out a little. It'll be fine. See, when it starts spreading apart, that's when you know you're too tight. Did I not tighten this down all the way? I didn't. Those set screws are just in there to help hold it in place. See, they don't really hold it. They're just to help keep it from out. You can still probably force that up and pull them out, but we don't want to do that now. I do know that sway bars is something that I'm going to have to play with a little bit more, because I'm so used to running a lot of loose stuff that I took sway bars off of stuff half the time on the really loose powdery outdoor stuff. For now, let's just get this thing built and take it to a rest for take it to a race for some testing. I almost said take it to a rest for some tasting. I don't think it tastes very good. Now, we don't have a motor mounted to this yet, but we will. For now, it wants us to go ahead and bring our car back over and then set this on the rear end, just like so. And it looks like we might be able to get in there to at least get one screw in and probably a ball in to get the motor mounted. So it should be okay. It's a little weeble wobbly, but it'll be all right. There it goes. Got to set down in there. All right, now we need pretty much the rest of our hardware. We need our 3x15s, and then the countersunks are going to be a 3x8. We need 4 3x8s. 4 3x6s, which are the ones that are trying to fall out of the bag already, because we've already used a couple of those. And then we need 2 6x6s. Sorry, 2.6x6s. I'm not sure what these other ones are, but they are incredibly short. They're like 4mm. So there's all that. We're just put these 4mm ones aside, and we'll figure out what those are in a moment. Make sure I didn't miss them somewhere. The order of this is... Oh, we need our fan mount as well, it looks like. 108006. Well, first off, what's 007? 3x6s. All right, so 3x6s are going to start out up front. Going to be our front ones, followed by the 4 bigger ones in the rear. And these are off. These 2.6s are for the fan mount. They go in the bottom of the fan mount. And then the 3x16s are for the fan. The 3x15s. Cool. It's simple enough. And see, these are going here like so, and that's looking good. Looking real good. All right, so we're going to go ahead and flip her upside down and do our best to hold it in place while we get these in. That's going to be the real trick, though, because it just fell out of its slot. There it goes. Once it goes, it just kind of drops, but got to keep a good pinch on it. All right, and these are for our rear. All right, so these two right here are these 4 are your 3x6s. These 4 in the middle here are your 3x8s. And then these 2 holes right here are for your fan mount. It's going to line it up. All right, and our fan here is going to go on like so. I just reused my 3x15s I had from the other, so now I got extras of those as well. Guess we haven't got to the ball studs on the outer, have we? Just yet. Yep, and I need those 2 shims back I just tossed in the bag. Look at that. And we are going to go ahead and just jump down here to number 23, just because I want to make sure that this is correct. So yes, we're going to do 2 of the 7s with the 1mm. So these last 2 7s are going to go on here with the 1mm. I thought it was going to be the 6mm ball studs, but it was not. So then we can just put these on with our hand driver so that these are in and ready to rock. And same with this side. And I also just realized I think I missed the sway link ends. I think they were on the last. Oh yes, they were. I was supposed to put the sway link ends on back here in number 18. And then fasten them in number 21. Okay, not a big deal. That's an easy fix. There's our sway link ends. Let's go ahead and put our extra bumper, extra bulkhead shim, and extra fan mount aside and throw that parts tree away. I like that it gives you so many extra parts. And then the same thing that we did with the front, we're going to do with these rears. These go on the front side of the arm. So we're going to set it in there and then grab our wrench to give us that leverage point. Just like that. This one doesn't seem to want to actually set on like the other side did. And then use our leverage point to get her on. Piece of cake. And we'll bring it up and grab our pliers again and just give her a squeeze, and it should, theoretically, sort of. There we go. There we go. So there's those in there. Then we can just set these up over top like so and pretend that there's turnbuckles on here for right now. That's very tight clearance on that. That's kind of nice to see. And we'll set this down so that nothing flips around and flops around. And then we can flip back over to number 22 here. It's already 11 o'clock. I don't feel like doing turnbuckles right now, so we're going to continue in the morning. All right, so we're back. It's the next morning here. We're going to go ahead and get the turnbuckles built for this and some other things. I did go ahead, like we said earlier, we went ahead and put the 2 7mm ball studs on the hubs here so that that was done from step number 23. I just want to make sure that those were done and out of the way. That way you could just focus solely on the turnbuckles. You do notice you have medium, long, and curve. So your curve and longs are going to be for your steering rack. Your mediums with the long links are for your, oh yeah, the short links are for your steering rack as well. The long links are going to be for camber for your front and rear. So these are your toe / steering links, and these are your camber links. Have those, go ahead and set those out, get them ready to go. There is going to be some stuff coming up on this that you're not going to want to miss. We have some huge announcements coming. This has a special plan for it. This particular thing, once it's done finishing this build video as a buggy, it's going to become something else, and it's not a street stock. I'm super excited to announce that. Let's just say this. It's going to be something new that I think is going to propel SWORKz to a whole new level in the United States. It'll be the first SWORKz of its kind, I do believe. I have not seen anything yet that says otherwise, so I think it's going to be the first one of its kind. So, before we get started, don't forget to caffeinate and hydrate. All right, so don't forget, if you have a turnbuckle puck buddy such as this one or something similar, go ahead and get that out. Looks like it's probably going to be a 3.2 or a 3.7. Or maybe not. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe, is this going to work? Oh, it's a 4. There we go. Nice and locked in the 4. All right, looks like I got kids waking up, so I'm going to have to check on that. And hopefully it's not like yesterday where it takes me 9 hours to get back to this. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and do our camber links here first. It looks like our front camber links are going to be 24.6 millimeter is the gap on those. We've got one side with a little offset, and that's our reverse thread. So no offset is standard right-hand thread. The other the little offset on the side is going to be our reverse thread. So we're not going to be able to use this because the way these ends are made, it does not fit in here. One side down. These are actually very easy to get on, and I'm not even doing the old shock fluid grease trick. These are like going on like butter. I usually hate turnbuckles, and this is not bad at all. 24.3, so I still need to come out about a turn. All right, so then we'll do this side. This is our lefty loosey, so we're gonna go, sorry, our righty. It's the backwards one. That's 26.9, that's gonna be close enough. We can adjust it from there. That's gonna be the one for this side. And I am going to use the persuaders on these because these are some pretty hefty ball cups. And so I just have a feeling we're going to need to use those persuaders. Thus persuaders. Yep. Just careful not to slip because you don't want to scratch your aluminum. Remember when I said I didn't think that servo arm was going to be too tall? It is just barely though, like literally maybe a 1/4 mil. Let's go ahead and build our other camber link here, and then it's just barely catching too much. Like literally barely. I'm going to give it just a tiniest of scrapes and see if that makes a difference, and if it does, then I know it'll be fine. Now it's got like 0.025 millimeter of clearance in there, so now we're smooth sailing. It was just barely getting caught up on there. All right, I got a kid hanging halfway out of her crib now, so I got to go and check on that. So until later, here we go. We're back, finally, again, multiple hours later. We gotta try to get this done. We got more stuff on the way. What were you doing? Oh yeah, steering links. So you're gonna grab your ones that have the long straight arm. I'm gonna turn the car around just because it's gonna help me. Oh my goodness, that's just ridiculous. Yes, dear? All right, so if you're noticing what I just noticed, I put my camber links where my steering links are supposed to be. So, I mean, why didn't you stop me? You're supposed to stop me on these things. Now I gotta see if I can get these off without marring the tar out of them. All right, so your steering links, you're going to have a curvy one. It's gonna go on the outside, facing the front of the car, and a long one on the inside. So we're making everything face left. So we're gonna want one of those right there. So we're making that little nub face the left side, a little nub in the stripe. This one has a stripe instead of a little nub. It has a tiny nub. We're okay. But anyway, steering link on the outside facing forward to go in here. Long one to go on the rack. So same over here. Steering link facing forward, long one on the rack. And then we're gonna make sure that this faces the correct direction. And note your orientation when you put these together because you don't want to accidentally flip them. And then you have your, where everything turns the same direction to go in and out, changes for one of them. So here we go. I should have asked for turnbuckle winches for Christmas. That kind of works. All right, take 27. I got kids who are not doing what they're supposed to be doing right now, which is going to bed. All right, so then we just need to make sure that these are lined up the right direction. There we go. I'm doing this by hand without a wrench in there. That's just crazy. Just crazy. Now we just have our rears. We need to go ahead and make sure that these are sitting in the drive cups. And the rears are going to be 23.15. So they're going to be much shorter. You know, I'm having the same difficulty on this as I did the X-ray one, where for some reason the right-hand thread is actually harder to thread than the left-hand thread. It's the strangest thing ever. We're going pretty short in this one, so I think we're going to go down until the threads are almost not showing. So we're just going to take it down to that point. We'll see how close that is. Well, that's spot on. Maybe just half a turn too little, but these need to face the same direction. So there we go. And make sure our line faces the left side of the car. Okay. All right, and then our last turnbuckle. This is the fastest I think I've ever done turnbuckles. These are easy. And I have not said that in a very long time with turnbuckles, if ever. The last time I said easy was when I could actually use my drill. At least I know that this little turnbuckle wrench I have fits this so that I can make adjustments. And I can already see that this is cambered out, so I'm going to go ahead and just take care of that now. All right, so next we're gonna move on to bag K, which is our shocks. Now, one thing that I will say is, since I am building this for an oval car, I have all of my little washers from the arms and moving the arms forward and backward, because I'm going to be building internal limiters to shorten the stroke of the shock even shorter than they already are, even though two-wheel drive buggy is pretty short already. On the oval, we like very short stroke. At least that's what I've learned. For those of you who are new to the channel and you think this channel is all about oval, this is only my first year doing oval. I am primarily an off-road guy, so it's all new to me. It's all new. I do have some custom work springs here, but I think these are 13mm shocks if I remember right, which means that these might not fit on there. Oh, they do. They do fit on there. Just barely. Cool. Oh, the bodies are already kind of put together. That's fun. Does it say what the springs are that it comes with? It does not. Okay. So I have no idea what poundage these are. Significantly lighter than these custom works ones, I can tell you that. All right, so I think I'm basically going to set this up the way I had the shocks on my street stock, which I gotta double check is red in the right front, white in the left front, green in the right rear, and yellow in the left rear. That is how I'm going to go ahead and put these springs in here. I'm probably gonna have to put 6 mil in the rear of each, or sorry, in each rear shock, which is 3 of these 2mm plastic washers on the shock shaft. And then I'm going to also put 2 1 mils in the front, you know, just to try to get it down where it needs to be. This is 37.5 weight fluid, which is what I was gonna do anyway. So that's good. We can go ahead and set these springs aside since I know I'm not gonna use them for right now. But when we go off-roading, you know, later, we might need those. So go ahead and pop your shock bottoms off of here. You're calling for medium in the front, highs in the rear. So there we go. We're just gonna do what they do. Medium front, high in the rear. We'll put these flats to the side along with our springs. Get a lot of extra parts with this kit. I will say that. There has been tons and tons of extra parts. Because like we have all 4 shock standoffs now and I'm still pulling more off. It's pretty crazy, which is awesome that you get enough to do all of it. These are rod ends. One's high and mediums. So high in the rear, medium in the front. Again, we have a full extra set. So there's plenty to go around. All right, so long shock bodies obviously are the rear. Short in the front. I like that the collar's already on here, but without the O-ring in it. See how easy that spins? I guess that way they don't forget any of the parts, right? Yeah, so no O-rings or X-rings, so don't think you're getting away with getting a pre-built shock body. It's not how it works. Go ahead and get your paper towel ready. Typical doubled over. Have it handy just in case you need to come back to it and, you know, do the old rebuild of a shock if you got way too much air in it. So this is where it's gonna get a little confusing because it's hard to really tell on here, okay? So the first thing that I'm going to do is do all of my O-rings, okay? So the little O-ring just slides on the bottom, right around there. This is just my way of doing these. You can do them your own way. You can do them like how that says at first. I always do it this way though. Put my O-rings on the body first, and then you take your final large O-ring and you put it, there's a little groove inside the top edge of this. And you're just gonna slide it in that little groove. And it should drop right down in there. Now one thing I am gonna look at real quick is I don't know if these are going to, no, so those are a true 13, and I cannot get this spring to stretch over it. So what we're gonna do is we're actually gonna run our caps upside down so that this 12mm spring sets up against the cap like it's supposed to. It'll wiggle a little bit probably, maybe not, since these are 12mm bodies. It's not going to have much wiggle room at all. So it's just going to have to work because I need these 8-pound springs, which nobody makes 8-pound springs for off-road cars. So, all right, so there's our O-rings done on that one. They're just going to go across and do the same thing on all of them. While we're at it, any of you watching the Tulsa Shootout Oval Race, or are you watching the big race in Omaha at Hobbyplex with RC? What are you watching this week? It's New Year's weekend, I should say. Today is the 2nd of January. I think you're seeing this the 3rd week of January. Yeah, so what were you watching on this weekend? And then, once we get that done, let's go ahead and build our shock bodies. Actually, let's do our pistons first. Why not? Let's do our pistons first. So you grab your short guy here. Go ahead and take the cap off of this. Remember, you're going to need your little driver. You're going to need to put this tiny washer down over this shaft like that. And then there's a little bit of an inset in the bottom for that to set down onto. And you put just the slightest dab of thread lock in the hole, not on the piston like I just did. Silly. And you grab your itty bitty little wrench. Well, we got thread locker in there, so we don't have to worry about cranking it down. You don't want to crank these tiny screws down anyway, so you're just gonna thread that down. Just get a little snug. You're gonna do it 4 times. Wait, what did I say? I was doing 7 in the rear and 1 in the front. I bring the front down to 21 and the rear down, or front down to 22 and the rear to 21. So I only need 6 in the rear and 1 in the front. That way it's 22 all the way around. Yeah, because I want it to be even. There's another hint as to what I'm doing. Now we're gonna go on to our bodies. So you're gonna get this little thing that looks like a tiny hat and push it down in here. And it may need to be helped down in there a little bit. It also helps if you put it in the right direction. So the little hat faces down, by the way, which is what I was almost not doing. All right, so that goes down in there. Now we're gonna need our X-ring grease, which is this stuff here. And we're gonna grab 2 X-rings and drop them on here, like so. And just get them lubed up a little bit. And you're going to push one on. You're gonna grab this big thick washer that goes on top of that. And you're gonna grab another X-ring that's got some grease on it. You push that down. Okay. And you grab one of these another little hat-looking washers. This time you're gonna make the narrow side face down, so it looks like that. And that little rounded nipple in the middle will actually go through this hole here. And so you just tighten that down. And voila, shock body is complete. Okay, and you're gonna go across and do that on all of them. And there we go, shock bodies are done. So then we're gonna grab this and bring this over, because up next we're gonna be working on getting the shock shaft into the piston itself. I'm gonna do the rears first, since they have the most limiters. Let's go ahead and put our eyelets in. This is when you're gonna need some shock pliers. Shock pliers like this are handy because they have the spot right there to do what you need to do. And so then you just put those on there like that and give it a squeeze, and it pops them right in place. Okay, because you'll need these on the bottom of each one. I just realized I've been recording for the last 44 minutes without my microphone on. Let's fix that. All right. That probably sounds a little better now. Having good quality audio is something that's important. It's also important to make sure you turn on that good quality audio. All of our rod ends are now put together. So we're going to set that aside. We do still need our shock pliers here in just a minute. But first we need to grab our rear shocks. Okay. Grab your rear pistons. Our 2 stacks of internal limiters. These are all 2 mil each, so we're going to shorten it by 6 mil to make it 22 millimeter of stroke. In the front, we're going to shorten by 1 to make those 22 millimeter of stroke as well. Well, you might be wondering, what do you mean by that? And I'll show you. So we're going to go ahead and open our shock fluid, make sure it's coming out good. You're going to put a little drop right on the shock shaft like this. It's just going to help it go in without tearing those seals. So just get it nosed in there and then just give it a little spinny spin as you push it through, just to make sure everything stays lubricated. So you got a little bit of O-ring grease coming out the bottom there. Just give it a little spin as you pull it through and you'll see that everything stays nice and free. So there's your total shock length. Now once this goes on there, it's going to be about like that. That's your stroke. With the kit, the rear stroke is 28 millimeter. So we are going to actually put these internal limiters on here to the tune of 6 millimeter to shorten that to 22 millimeter. Now see when you put those on there, and there we go. Now it's that much shorter. What we want to do now is go ahead and put our rod end on. So this is when you're going to take your pliers, put it through the middle, up to the little divots towards the front here, so you can hold that shaft without it scratching. And you're going to put your rod end on. Put this to flush. All right, and then once that's flush, I'm going to take our caliper. We're going to see where we're at. We're at 22.7. So I'll go a half turn more. We'll see where that puts us. 22.3, so we need to go another half turn. That should be right at 22. 22.1, close enough. 1/10 of a millimeter is not enough to shake an eye at the moment. All right, so there is our shortened stroke, as you can see there. So now we're going to go ahead and get a piston over here. We can actually go ahead and put this on here as well. So you're just going to give this a little nudge. Oh wait, I have to put these on upside down. That's right. Because I cannot get those springs over top of this. So that's going to spin on until it hits the O-ring, and it's going to slow down. Now a way that you can feel that super sticky spot there, a way to get rid of that is to do this. Put a little bit of oil on there. And then when you get this up there and start spinning it, it's going to spread that oil across. And it's going to get on that O-ring, and it's going to let that O-ring move around a little bit. I like that these have a white mark painted on them already so that you can actually count your turns. So if you don't have a caliper and you want to make sure that you're turning it the right direction, like say I went 3 turns out or 2.5 turns out or whatever, I can actually count it by the rotation of the white stripe, which is handy. So there's our collar on. So now we're going to fill this up. Now the way that I usually do this is I usually bring it up to almost the top, not quite. And then I just push it up a little bit. Don't break the surface. And then start pulling all that air that's underneath of that piston where we shortened it. Pull that through. It should have, if you do it slow, it should just have a couple big bubbles that push out. And go ahead and top it off, like so. And make sure that you push that up. And there's only one tiny little bubble at the top there. And there it popped. And put your cap on. You're going to go ahead and grab your set screw and put it on your 1.5 driver. Okay. You're going to push that up and then put your set screw in. If you did it right, hear a slight squeak at first, and then it will go away. And we're going to pump this up and down 40 times. 10, 8, 39, 40. Okay. We're going to pull that back down. Going to loosen our bleeder screw. And then we're going to give it a big push. And tighten her back up. Okay. And you should have a little bit that purges out the top there. And it should not push out on you. You don't want it to be a rebound. And also notice it's not going in, so it's not bound or rebound. It is a perfectly balanced shock. You won't get that every time. I can promise you that. But when you get it, it makes you happy. It makes you real happy. All right, so this is going to be our, let's just make this one our right rear. So we'll put our green spring on here. It's going to snap onto the shaft and down. And then since these are 12 mil springs on a 13 mil collar, we just have to give it a little wedge. But then, if you see there's a slight gap there, we can go ahead and turn that collar down. Ah, it's screwed on. It's got a stripe on both sides. Okay, so here's half, 1, half, 2. 2 screws down, puts it to where it touches right on there. And now I have our 8-pound right rear at 22 millimeter stroke. So we're going to do the same thing on this one in the same way. Now we're going to move on to our front springs, which we're going to have a 1 mil of limiter on. I do like starting the collars upside down though, because it makes it a lot less likely to cross thread. When you start them with the washer or the O-ring first, it is very easy to cross thread. But when I build an off-road one of these, because I will be getting another D-kit to make it into an off-road buggy before the year's up, because that'll be for winter next year to run 17.5 two-wheel drive through the indoor. This kit has been an amazing kit to build so far. I say we're going to have to do this the hard way because I got to hold it upright to get this on now. But I can adjust the stroke after we get it bled. All right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40. All right, so the good thing is we didn't need to really rebuild anything, so we still have over half a bottle of shock fluid left, so that's awesome. There's so much extra stuff in this kit. So much extra. Extra is good. Like good extra, not bad extra. It's not extra like, oh no, I didn't use all my parts. It's extra like they gave you a ton of stuff. I don't know if you guys realize this, but not only do we have all those other things, but like this is my tray of extra parts right now. It's just crazy. Plus there's ball stud washers and this whole baggie of hardware, and we still got our pinion gear that they gave us, which I believe is a 21 tooth or something like that. Yeah, 21 tooth. So, be good for a mod. Not necessarily for a spec'd out 13.5 midget. We've got our tops filled. We've got our bottoms on. So, we've already gone through the next page. I just did it all in one shot. We need M3x6 taper heads. So that's these guys. We need 2 of them. These are those ones that look like they got built on washers. We need 2 of those. We need 2 3x 18 button heads, which we know we only have 2 of those because they are these giant ones that are in here. 2.5 by 5, that's these little dudes, and 3 by 12 countersunks, 2 of those. So this is just for our fronts, okay? And then we also need 2 of these really cool, like brass colored standoffs. Those are sweet. And 2 of these countersunk gunmetal washers. All right, so we're gonna get these mounted on here. First off, we need to take our countersunk and our washer. Are these the right countersunks? These look short, but they're right. Okay. And then our washer, so we need to grab both those. And since I'm right-handed, I'm gonna do it this way. You're gonna grab your 2mm wrench. We're just gonna put these where it says to put them, which is in the middle. Then our shorter screws with the like flare is gonna go on here, okay? Let's see if this will tight squeeze. That is a tight squeeze, and these are my shorter wrenches too. If that was the, and then these long screws are for the bottom. Short screws here go on the top of the tower on the front, where this cover goes to cover over the carbon fiber. It's a very precision fit. I believe these are 1/5s. Yes. As we did middle of the top, I'm just doing outer on the bottom just for sake of being easy to get in and out. Once we get the midget shock tower on there, we'll adjust from there. And the rears, I'm going to do what I usually do, just put the bottom on first and then lift up to the top, especially since I shortened the shocks. So I'll show you what I mean by that. So on the rears, we're going to do the same thing. You're going to take your shock standoffs. And it looks like you're going to have the same washers and the same screws. Only difference being this cover is going to actually go on here before your screws go on. That just covers over the shock tower to keep it from splitting. And we're going to be doing the nut and set screw style like on the AE cars on the lowers. So that's cool. And that tapered screw on the top. All right, so middle hole. There we go. The holes are made just about exact on this cover, so you do have to screw through it. But once you're screwed through, you're fine. We're going to put our standoffs on here. We'll hold the wrench on the back just to make sure it doesn't move around. And then the bottoms, I need the 1/5 to drill these in. You cannot get the power wrench in there. Wish you could. I guess I could if I took a ball stud out. Wants to do that though, right? It's too easy. I'd rather fight it. Just kidding. I'm not going to fight it. Same on this one. Go to that outer hole. I knew coming into this, I was told by a team member that the manuals weren't exactly in the correct order of doing things for making sure that, you know, you give it on. Like, personally, I would make sure to put those screws in the arm before the arm even went on the car to make sure that it's ready for the shock. Now, we can go ahead and put the ESC tray in here, which is, if you remember a couple bags ago, we had these really tiny little 4mm long, 2mm wide screws, or 2.5mm wide screws. Or are these 2.6 by 4? They're not even 2.5. They're even more of a goofy size. These are for holding that ESC tray in. Line side down. I almost said I wish this was carbon fiber like the X-Ray, but I will say that the thing that scares me on the X-Ray with this being carbon fiber is if you are removing your electronics and you need to take your servo tape off, what do you usually do to get your servo tape off? Use a flathead screwdriver and you scrape it off. If your electronics tray is carbon fiber, I'm afraid I'm going to literally dig into the carbon fiber and scrape the crap out of the carbon fiber. And it just looks so good. And I know that that's like a $20 piece of carbon fiber. I hate doing it. And so it scares me. There is one thing I'm going to do to this since I know what it's becoming. I'm going to actually move this fan. Because this is going to be a midget, it's not going to have that wide chassis to accommodate the fan sitting on the side like that. So I'm going to save this for a later date. You're probably wondering, why are you putting this back on your old fan mount? Remember, there's this little gap thing in here. Well, since we have a narrow space that we're going to be using, this plus roughly 2 millimeter, we're going to do this. There's that. I'm going to slide this down in here like this. Well, maybe I do need that whole piece of width there. I do. All right, so now I have a fan that's directly over the motor that I can run in that. On your step number 30, if you have your electronics, just follow those steps. It's just a matter of double-sided tape, and if you have an antenna on your receiver, you're going to need that as well. Otherwise, you're just going to be doing this. I like throwing off in a fight any standoffs under these or anything. We can just put these screws right in where they need to go. You know that thing I always say don't do with carbon fiber? Yeah, I just did it, didn't I? All right, so we don't have a battery, but we have our battery bands. Oh, which are much tighter than the ones that go on the SR10, so that's good. I'm still not a huge fan of battery bands. I would probably figure out a way to make these not battery bands. If you ever wonder why I use pink wheel nuts, even if I'm not doing a bunch of pink on the car, the pink wheel nuts and the body clips, the bright yellow body clips. I do that because they stand out on the dirt, and it's always easy to find them. All right. I also just realized we forgot to put our wing mount back on, so we're going to go ahead and do that. Remember, I pulled them to the side before. There's that, and then we just need our countersunks from that first bag that are our short guys here. We're going to call this one a finished product for our first kit build of the SWORKz S12-3D, the new redesign from SWORKz. This has been a great build. Like I said, of course, we've struggled with some manual stuff here and there, but the build itself has been phenomenal. As you can see here, it is just great. Let me get you tilted up here so I can talk to you. The build here on this one has been great. The build quality is fantastic. I really like this buggy. This has been a great two-wheel drive buggy to build. It's a nice kit. I mean, I look forward to the next SWORKz kit we're going to build. We have the S14-3D four-wheel drive buggy coming, as well as the 8-scale e-truggy. So that's going to be a blast. We're going to have the monster on the table, because if you've ever seen e-truggies, they are huge. We did some makeshifting on this one to get it ready for that midget, with like the custom work springs and the flipping the collars on that, shortening the stroke on those. Obviously, these would be 8mm longer shocks, or 6mm longer shocks than they are. The fan mount to the middle here. So that's our SWORKz S12-3D. Fantastic build. Like I said, I've said that before already. I'm really looking forward to racing this thing on the midget class. Looking forward to racing them off-road as well. Just for now, I can run oval. And that's my indoor track for the winter, so it's going to become a midget for now. And that's going to be a super awesome collaboration with Undercover, and I'm really looking forward to that. So I'm going to get him this on Tuesday, and he's going to start measuring and cutting. So next time you see this, it will be a midget. So until next time, keep the shiny side up, the rubber side down, and remember to stay in the groove.